The park exploded with a scream that cut through the laughter like a knife. It wasn't the joyful squeal of kids playing tag, or the kind of shout that erupts when a soccer ball sails wide. It was raw, jagged, and raucous sound that stopped hearts and turned heads. At its center stood a woman, her face contorted with rage, her hand still raised from the slap she'd just delivered to a boy's cheek. The boy, barely 10, staggered back, his eyes wide with shock, one hand clutching his face where a red welt bloomed like a cruel stain. Around them, the world froze, parents on blankets, kids mid-run, even the breeze seeming to hold its breath. And then, from a bench across the field, a man stood. He didn't yell. He didn't sprint. But the air shifted, heavy with the weight of his presence, as if the earth itself tilted toward him. This wasn't just a park anymore. It was a reckoning. Willow Park had been alive with the kind of afternoon that felt like a gift. The sprawling green field, framed by old oaks and creaky playground slides, buzzed with families staking out their spots, blankets spread, coolers open, kids darting like fireflies. Among them was Noah, a lanky 10-year-old with messy brown curls and a grin that seemed to trap the sunlight. He raced across the grass with his friends, their sneakers thumping in a chaotic game of chase, their laughter rising like sparks. Every dodge, every shout was pure, unfiltered life, the kind that made parents pause and remember what freedom tasted like. Watching from a weathered bench was Noah's father, Lucas. He sat alone, a tall figure in a faded hoodie, his broad shoulders relaxed but his eyes always tracking his son. Lucas carried a quiet intensity, a stillness that hinted at strength forged in fire. His hands, resting on his knees, bore faint scars across the knuckles, and a tattoo of a wolf peeked from under his sleeve. To the other parents, he was just another dad, maybe a bit guarded. But to fight fans, he was Lucas Forge Carter, a former MMA fighter whose knockouts still echoed in highlight reels clips of raw power and unshakable resolve. Here, though, he was Noah's dad, sipping coffee from a thermos, content to let the world hum around him. For an hour, the park sang with harmony. Kids kicked soccer balls toward rusty goalposts, toddlers chased dandelion fluff, and parents swapped stories about school pickups and summer plans. The smell of grilled hot dogs wafted from a cart near the lot, blending with the earthy scent of fresh grass. It was a day that felt untouchable, a slice of ordinary magic. Then she arrived. Valerie stormed into the park like a thundercloud in high heels. Mid-40s, with a sharp blonde bob and a face hardened by years of entitlement, she moved as if the world owed her its silence. Her tight, red dress screamed for attention, paired with a designer purse that cradled a trembling Yorkie named Duchess. Valerie's heels sank into the grass with every step, but she pressed on, her lips pursed as she scanned the park for a throne. She claimed a bench near the heart of the kids' game, plopping down with a huff that suggested the universe had personally insulted her by allowing children to exist. At first, Noah and his friends didn't notice her. They were lost in their world, weaving through imaginary obstacles, their shouts rising like music. But as they sprinted past her bench, one Efema girl with a ponytail let out a triumphant whoop that made Valerie flinch. Her head snapped up, eyes narrowing behind oversized sunglasses. She muttered something sharp about brats and spineless parents. Duchess yipped once, mirroring her owner's irritation, but Valerie silenced the dog with a flick of her wrist. Over the next few minutes, her muttering grew louder, her glares more venomous. She wasn't just annoyed, she was declaring war on joy. Parents started to notice. A dad grilling nearby paused, his tongs hovering. A mom with a stroller offered a cautious smile, trying to defuse the tension. "Kids, huh? Just letting off steam," she said lightly. Valerie's response was a snort that carried across the field. "Steam? They're a nuisance. Someone needs to teach them respect." Her voice was acid, and the mom backed off, her smile fading. A few parents exchanged glances, silently agreeing to steer clear. But Valerie wasn't interested in peace. She wanted control. Noah, oblivious to the storm brewing, led another charge across the field. His laughter rang out as he dodged a friend's tag, his curls bouncing with every stride. He veered close to Valerie's bench, too close, apparently, though he didn't touch her or even look her way. To Valerie, it was an unforgivable crime. She shot to her feet, her purse nearly toppling, and screamed, "That's it!" The word was a gunshot, freezing the kids in place. Noah skidded to a stop, his sneakers kicking up dirt, his chest heaving as he looked up at her, confused. Duchess barked frantically, clawing at the purse, but Valerie didn't hesitate. Her hand swung wide, connecting with Noah's cheek in a slap that echoed like a thunderclap. The park went silent. Noah stumbled, his hand flying to his face, his eyes wide with shock and pain. His friends froze, mouths open, unsure what to do. Parents gasped, some standing, others reaching for phones. And from his bench, Lucas rose. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He walked, each step measured, his broad frame parting the crowd like water. Every eye followed him, drawn not by speed, but by the sheer force of his presence. Valerie, still panting from her outburst, didn't notice him at first. She was too busy glaring at Noah, her chest heaving as if she'd won a war. But when she looked up and saw Lucas approaching, her expression flickered anger giving way to uncertainty, then the first prick of fear. Lucas stopped a few feet away, close enough that Valerie had to tilt her head to meet his gaze. His face was calm, his dark eyes locked on hers. Noah stood behind him, clutching his cheek, his breath hitching as he fought tears. The welt on his face burned red under the sunlight. Lucas's voice, when he spoke, was low and steady, like the rumble of a distant storm. "You hit my son." Valerie flinched but rallied, clutching Duchess tighter. He was out of control," she stammered, her voice high and defensive. "Running like a wild animal, nearly knocking me over. Someone had to stop him." Her words tumbled out, each one digging her deeper into a hole she couldn't see. Lucas didn't blink. "He's 10. He was playing. You put your hands on him." Each word landed like a stone, heavy and deliberate. The crowd was growing, parents edging closer, phones raised to capture the moment. Valerie's eyes darted to the onlookers, her face flushing as she sensed the shift. "I didn't mean to hit him," she snapped, backtracking. "It was a reflex. He scared me. You can't let kids run around like that. It's reckless." "Reckless," Lucas repeated, his voice still calm but edged with steel. "You think a kid laughing is reckless? You think that gives you the right to assault him?" The word assault hung in the air, and Valerie's bravado cracked. She stepped back, her heels wobbling, her purse slipping in her grip. Duchess whimpered, sensing the change. "To feel threatened," Valerie blurted, raising her voice for the crowd. "This man is intimidating me. Someone call the police." But her plea fell flat. A woman nearby, filming since the slap, called out, "Already called, lady. They're on their way." Another parent, a guy with a toddler on his shoulder, added, "We all saw it. Don't try to twist this." Valerie's face paled, her lips trembling as she realized she was cornered. She opened her mouth to argue, but Lucas cut her off, his voice quieter now, almost gentle, but no less powerful. "You're lucky I'm not the kind of man who solves things with fists outside the cage. Because if I were, this would be a different story." The threat wasn't in his words, it was in his restraint, in the way his hands stayed loose, in the way he stood like a shield between Valerie and Noah. She shrank back, her confidence unraveling, her eyes searching for an escape that didn't exist. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others filming, capturing her downfall. Minutes later, sirens wailed, growing louder as a police cruiser pulled into the lot. Two officers stepped out, a woman with a tight bun and a man with a notepad. Valerie rushed toward them, her voice shrill. "Officers, thank God. This man is dangerous. He threatened me." But the female officer held up a hand, her expression flat. "Ma'am, we've got calls about an assault on a child. We've seen video." She gestured to a parent who handed over a phone, the screen replaying Valerie's slap. Valerie froze, her mouth flapping uselessly. "It wasn't like that," she protested, her voice cracking. I didn't mean it was just a reflex. But the officer wasn't listening. She watched the video, her jaw tightening, then turned back. Ma'am, you're under investigation for assaulting a minor. Come with us. As the officers led Valerie away, her protests fading into a desperate whine, Lucas knelt beside Noah. The boy's tears had stopped, but his eyes searched his father's face for answers. Lucas brushed a thumb across the welt on his son's cheek, his touch gentle. "You're okay, Noah," he said softly. "You didn't do anything wrong." Noah nodded, leaning into his father's side, and for a moment, the world was just them. The park stirred back to life, but it was muted. Kids resumed their games, but their laughter was softer. Parents gathered their things, casting glances at the cruiser as it drove off. Valerie slumped in the back seat. Lucas and Noah stayed a little longer, not because they had to, but because Lucas wanted his son to see it through to know that actions had consequences. As they walked to their car, a woman approached, her phone in hand. "I sent the video to the station," she said. "She's not wiggling out of this." Lucas nodded, his gratitude quiet but clear. Another parent clapped him on the shoulder. "You're a hell of a dad, man." Lucas didn't respond, just tightened his grip on Noah's hand and kept walking. The drive home was silent, the radio off, the engine's hum filling the space. Noah stared out the window, his fingers tracing his seatbelt. Finally, he spoke, his voice small. "Why'd she hit me, Dad? I wasn't even near her." Lucas's hands tightened on the wheel, but his voice stayed even. "Some people carry anger inside, Noah. They don't know how to let it go, so they hurt others. You didn't deserve it. That was about her, not you." Noah nodded, processing, then leaned against the window, letting the words sink in. That night, the house felt heavy. Noah curled up on the couch with a comic book, but his eyes kept drifting to the window. Lucas sat nearby, scrolling through his phone, where notifications piled up. The video had gone viral, spreading across social media with headlines like, "Woman slaps kid at park, regrets it when dad's an MMA fighter." Reddit threads dissected it, Twitter users made memes, and fight fans flooded Lucas's old fight clips with comments. But Lucas didn't care about the noise. He cared about the boy across from him, the one who'd learned a hard lesson too soon. "Dad," Noah said suddenly, "are people going to keep talking about this?" Lucas set his phone down. "For a bit, yeah. People like stories like this. But what matters is what you take from it. You're stronger than what happened, Noah. Don't let it change you." Noah nodded, his fingers tightening around the comic. "I'm glad you didn't hit her," he said quietly. "I thought you might." Lucas's chest tightened. "I wanted to," he admitted. "But that's not who I am outside the ring. That's not who I want you to see." They sat in silence after that, the kind that didn't need words. Outside, the stars shone bright against a dark sky. Lucas thought about the moment he'd stood up, the fury that had surged when he saw the mark on Noah's face. He'd spent years mastering control-grueling fights, endless training. But nothing had tested him like today. Days later, life tried to settle, but the park's echo lingered. Lucas returned to the gym, where trainees whispered about the video. Noah went back to school, where kids asked about the mean lady, and teachers gave him extra smiles. The internet churned, with Valerie's name now tied to a courthouse photo, her face pale as she dodged reporters. At the police station, Lucas and Noah gave statements. The officer, Detective Lee, was kind, showing Noah a sketch instead of a photo. Valerie had been charged with misdemeanor assault, her lawyer pushing for a plea. There was talk of probation, maybe a fine, but the real punishment was online, where her name became a punchline. One evening, as Lucas grilled in the backyard, Noah came out, a soccer ball under his arm. "Can we play, Dad?" he asked, his voice lighter. Lucas grinned, setting the tongs down. They kicked the ball, Noah's laughter ringing out, a rebellion against the week's weight. Lucas felt something loosen in his chest. Later, under the stars, Lucas sat on the porch, a beer in hand. He thought about Valerie, not with anger, but curiosity. What drove someone to strike a child for being happy? He thought about Noah, about the resilience in his son's eyes. And he thought about himself, the man he'd chosen to be when it mattered most. The world would move on. The video would fade. But for Lucas and Noah, this was a story of strength off, a father who stood tall, and a boy who learned he was worth defending. And sometimes, in the quiet under the stars, that was enough. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.